Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi. Now over the last few months I've been sort of hunting around and searching for the remains of as many Star Wars Snowspeeders as I can find, and as you can see here I've amassed a small box full of the bare shells of a few Snowspeeders and a couple of complete ones that I've managed to source parts for. Now these Snowspeeders need a lot of work, and if you watch my recent restoration videos you'll have seen me repair the back ends of a couple of these because they had snapped off, but that box has left me with some good shells that I can use for some custom work that I wanted to get done. So if you look in front of me here I have two Snowspeeders. This is one that I've managed to put together which has pretty much all the parts on it. It's just missing the harpoon gun and block at the back, but everything on it works, including the electronics inside. I've managed to get it all working again. But this poor guy on the right here has been completely gutted of parts. If I open up the battery compartment you can see there's nothing left inside. All of the contacts have been removed. In fact all of the wiring and electronics, the little motor that should go on this side, everything inside has been taken out, and that's exactly how I got it. So it's a shame that there's nothing left, but I thought why not try and put in some modern wiring and lights and see if we can make this work a lot better than the original one did. So let's take a look at the original one and I'll talk you through how that works, and then we can see what we can do with this. So here is an original Snowspeeder with all of the correct wiring inside it. You can see I don't actually have the C size batteries. I've just used a couple of A's. You can prop these in just enough to get this working. And on the bottom there's a button. If I press the button it will fire up a motor here and the lights on the front will flash. It's hard to see the lights flashing, but if I sort of angle this here you should be able to see them sort of flashing. Now the way this works is there is a motor on this side, and as the motor turns it turns a gear, and that gear pushes onto two bits of metal which are the sort of contacts for the lights on the front. So as those contacts go round it goes together sort of once every sort of few turns, and that's what lights the lights on the guns at the front here, and the noise is made just by a bit of plastic rubbing against the gear. Now obviously all of this has been removed from the other Snowspeeder I have, so we're going to try and work out a way of recreating at least the lights part of this. The sound I'm not too worried about because it is a terrible noise, and really I'm not that fond of it. So I think for now I just want to work out a way of replacing all of these lights so that we can get the same sort of flashing we have here, and maybe some other ones inside to light up the cockpit. So the first thing I need to do is sort out some lights. Now if you go onto eBay and search for RC light kits or remote control light kits, you can buy a few little packs of sort of soldered LEDs onto bits of wire that are designed to go in remote control cars. Now there's a few sets that I bought here because I want to do different things with this. This first set comes with 4 LEDs. I've got 2 red and 2 white ones, and these are flashing LEDs, and this second set is non-flashing LEDs, but each kit comes with the LEDs on wires, as you can see here. So I've got 4 LEDs on wires. There is a battery connector to a PP3 size battery, and then you get also some little holders for the LEDs, so little sort of black things to hold them in, and a switch. So from this set of 2 sort of sets of LEDs we're going to sort out the inside of this. So what I want to do is, if you watch the Empire Strikes Back movie you'll see that the lasers are actually red and not white, so that's why in this pack here I've got 2 flashing red LEDs which I think we can fit where the original lights were here, and then I've got some non-flashing LEDs here which I hoped we can sort of somehow hide maybe inside the cockpit. I'm hoping maybe just sort of a little bit down there between where the legs of the figure go, so that we get a bit of light coming up into the cockpit, and again maybe one sort of back there just behind where the rear gunner sits, maybe in front of the gun itself, again just so we get a bit of light inside the cockpit. So let's take a look at these LEDs and see what they'll actually look like. So I've taken from the 2 kits I bought the components that I think I'll need for this setup. So here we have 2 flashing LEDs. Now if I just take one of these and I'll tap the contacts onto a battery here, you'll be able to see that this is a red flashing LED. Now it doesn't flash particularly fast, but I sort of thought that was quite nice. I found the original flashing of the ship lights a little bit too sort of full on, so this sort of gentle flashing I think will look quite nice coming out of the guns. So I've got 2 of those, one for each side, and then here we have the LEDs from the second set I bought, which is the non-flashing one. So I've got the sort of white blue lights You can see there, that's quite a nice glow, and I think that will look quite nice inside the cockpit. I've also taken one of the switches that came with the pack and obviously a battery connector. Now you can do this by soldering everything together, but if you're not very good at soldering, you can buy this stuff which is called chop block, which is a way of connecting wires together just using screws and that. So if you're not very good with soldering, you can use some of this, but I think for most of this job I'm actually going to solder everything together because it will make a much sort of neater finish. So let's take a look at inside the Snowspeeder, and I'll see if I can work out a way to lay this all out that will give me the result that I'm after. So here is the bottom section of one of the Snowspeeders that I repaired recently. You can see the milliput in the back where I reattached the rear engine part there. Now this is a little bit of a damaged one, which is why I was going to do the sort of customization on this. This part here where the landing gear goes has been cracked. It's got quite a heavy sort of crack in it, and there's also some damage elsewhere. So I thought this would be quite a good one to do custom work on because it's not really good enough to restore on its own. So first thing is we're going to take the flashing red LEDs. Now these should just be able to fit exactly where the original lights went. They're going to need a little bit of bending, so I'll do that in the end, but those need to go sort of roughly there. I just want to put these in place so I can see where I can fit the wiring and how much wiring I need before I sort of cut everything, and I might need to extend some of the wires as well, because this cable needs to sort of go around the front of the cockpit section there. There are handy little sort of gaps to put the wires in, which how the original ones were fitted, and that can come back round to this side. I think that's probably about as much cable as I need, actually a little bit longer, so I'll just pull that back. That one doesn't matter on this side because we can easily chop those wires down. So everything can sort of join together about to the sort of just behind this light here. And then I've got these two white lights. Now I want one of these sort of fitted about here on the front section, so again that one can just fit round to this side, and I want another light at the back here which is just behind the gun. So I'm hoping all of these cables should be long enough that I can fit everything together. I think they will be. That rear one may be a little bit too short just for when we put the toy together, but I think that should be about long enough. I may extend that one. And then we obviously need the battery, so the battery's got to go in the battery compartment on this side, and again fit that cable round. And now here is the problem, which is the switch. Now this doesn't quite fit in the hole there, so I'm going to have to do a few little modifications to that hole just to fit that switch in, but it only needs a tiny amount trimmed off it, and then that can fit in, and then we can sort of start soldering everything together. I'm actually going to have to put a bit of an extension of some wires from the power cable. That is just not quite long enough. One end can fit on there, but I do obviously need to connect to this, so I'm going to have to extend the cabling a little bit, but it's not much of a job. So let me get on with soldering and I'll try and put all of this together. Actually a slight change of plan now. I think I'll fit this switch first. Now on the bottom of the Snowspeeder you can see this is the hole where the original little button would go, and I think the new power switch should just fit in there quite nicely. It is black. I maybe could paint that at the end if I don't want to have it too visible, and you can see the hole is just a little bit too short, so I'm going to take a small needle file here. This is a flat edged needle file, and I'm going to carefully file down just one edge of that until this fits in. So let's get that sort of sorted. So just a small amount of filing there. You can see that I've actually made that hole big enough now that the switch fits inside. And that's actually quite a nice fit on the bottom. There's a tiny bit left of the original hole there that is a slightly squarer shape than the switch, but otherwise that works quite well. So I think that's a nice sort of position to have the switch. So now I can get on with doing the soldering and get this sort of wiring put in place, and we'll see how it looks. after about 10 minutes of soldering, this is what I'm left with. So I've got the two red lights here, I've got the loose white light here and another loose one here that I want to attach to the back. This is all wired through the switch and to the battery, and I've used one of the little chop blocks there just to make it a little bit easier. So now if I switch the switch on the bottom, we should get all of these lights lighting up so we can see how it works. So we do the two red flashing lights on either side, and then we have a white light here in the middle and a white light at the back. So that's working exactly how I wanted it to work. So now really all I need to do is work out how I can fit these onto the top part of the shell, and I'll put it together and we can do a little bit of a test and see how that works. Now an interesting thing actually about these is they're flashing slightly out of sync. I hadn't actually thought about that, so let's just switch that off and switch it on again. They do start flashing in sync and then they slowly go out of sync. That's an odd thing. I guess it's because they're slightly different LEDs. So a little bit of a weird thing now. I maybe see if I can find two that actually match on that, because obviously you'd rather them flash together. So it's a little bit annoying that they do that. So I'll have to see if there's another way I can do that. But for the moment, I think I'll just leave it and let's see what it looks like when I put everything together. For fitting the lights onto the top section, I've actually just used some black insulation tape. Now I've actually put quite a lot of black tape around where I'm putting the lights because I don't really want the lights to bleed through the body of this snowspeeder. The plastic used on these snowspeeders is fairly thin, so you can actually see the original lights shine through quite brightly. So I think a little sort of layer of this, which is really quite sort of thick stuff, should stop the light being able to bleed through. And I've actually just used the tape as well to tape the lights in place for the moment. I may come to sort of glue these in, but actually the tape holds them pretty firmly and I don't think you'll be able to see that from the outside. So now I can sort of fit this whole ship together and we'll see how well the lights work. So here's the snowspeeder all back together. Obviously I've taken some bits from some of my other snowspeeders to make this look more complete, but I wanted to be able to check all of the lights working. So first thing, I'm going to switch off some of the big lights in my room so it's a little bit darker here. Then I can switch on the lights just by hitting the switch on the back there, and we can see how this looks. So we can look, you can now see that the guns are firing red, which is working quite nicely. Yep, they're working well, and you can see there is a little bit of light in the cockpit. It's a little bit maybe too subtle, although it's quite nice like that. Let me see if I can turn this other light off. I have another light on the front of my camera, so let me see if I can switch that one off and we'll see what it looks like with all the lights off. Okay, so I've now switched all the lights off on my room. I've just got one little bit of a light just in the background there, just so I can actually see what I'm doing. And if I switch on the lights now, you can see actually that looks really nice. I'm really pleased with how that's working. The light in the cockpit does give you quite a nice sort of glow. I think that works particularly well. I'm getting a little bit of bleed, as you can see, from the red part of the lights on the top part of the sort of gun mounts there, but that is actually how it was originally. And you can also see that they're slightly going out of sync. So I think I'm going to have to do a little bit more research into this and see if there's a better way for me to do the red flashing lights to stop them going out of sync like this, because I think overall this is looking pretty nice. I can obviously stop the bleed here. Again, that just requires putting a bit of tape in, because you can see the stuff that I put on the front has worked really well, and also the stuff that's on the back has stopped a lot of the bleed. You're getting some coming through just where there's a gap in the plastic, but the overall effect on the cockpit actually looks really nice. You can quite clearly see the characters inside there. If I just lift the lid as well, that's working pretty well. So I think I'm happy with the cockpit and how that's working. It's just a way of getting these two guns to stop flashing out of sync, so that's going to be a little bit more research for me. So that's it for this part of the video. This is a sort of prototyping stage. I like to sort of do a test before I go to the final sort of way of doing a sort of custom, and this was my first go at putting lights in a snowspeeder. I've never actually done this before. I've only ever sort of restored a snowspeeder to its original form, so it's nice to see what is possible. Obviously the bleed is very easy to fix. I'm going to do a little bit more research and see if I can find a way of getting these two red LEDs to flash in sync, and that's why it's quite useful to use these sort of chop blocks, because it means I can then easily remove these lights and swap them out with something else if I can find a better way of getting them to flash. And obviously the kits that I bought did come with some other LEDs that don't flash, so the worst case is I could just put some in that are non-flashing LEDs and you get the nice red glow then of the lasers, and then the lights in the cockpit would be sort of on as well. So I'm going to do a bit of research. If anyone has some suggestions on what I can do for the flashing LEDs, then please drop me a line, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching Toy-Polloi. Subscribe for more great videos.